There are many situations where it can be helpful to detect patterns of activity that are outside normal boundaries. One example might be intrusion detection. Let's say we want to analyze a user's activities to see if they're logging into more machines than they might typically do. To help with that, KQL provides a function called series outliers. Series outliers takes a set of values that are passed in, does its analysis, and returns a value that indicates the possibility of an anomaly. The greater the value is over 1.5, the more likely that this is an anomaly. So let's go down and look at this query. In addition to demonstrating the use of series outliers, we're also going to demonstrate the way you might develop a query in real life. Let me come in and I'm going to expand this to give us a little more room. And we start by developing our base query. The base query is what's going to return the data that we're going to be working with throughout the rest of these queries. So you can see I've created a let statement. I am materializing our data, and I'm going to go for the event ID of 4624, which means we had an account that was successfully logged in. I'm filtering this only for user logins, and then I'm going to do make series to return an array that is the count of logins. So here you can see for the NT Authority Anonymous Login account, it had 0 logins for the 2018-05-18 date. It had 0 for the 19th, and then so on until it had 2 logins on the last day in our date range. Now that we have the base data we want to work with, we can get our series of outliers. In the next query, I've taken my base and I've just repeated it. And then I come down to my next let statement, let anom accounts equal. I then have my base data, which I pipe into my extend outliers. What it's going to do is it's going to calculate using series outliers based upon that array that I passed in. In this case, the array is the dcount computer that you see below. I'm then going to be able to expand this along with the time generated and the count so that we can get an idea of what is anomalous data. Down below, you can see that the anonymous login, it's 2 logins during the 23rd of May. The outlier number is extremely high, well over the 1.5 mark, which indicates that it is extremely likely this is an outlier. In other words, out of normal activity. We can keep going though, and we can see how many logins is average for this user so that we have a comparison. After getting my base data, I have my accounting average, and I can see what is my average number of logins for this. I'm using series stats dynamic, passing in my count, and it's going to tell me that my average logins over this time period is 0.5. So building on our query, the next one gets a list of our domain controllers, followed by one that gets a list of my domain accounts. I won't take time to run these now, but it just returns a simple list of my domain accounts. Now we're going to put it all together. I start with my base data. I then take the base data to look for the outliers. I also use it to get the average number of logins for the same time period. I get my domain accounts. And then finally, I'm ready to execute this all in my main query. In my security event table, I'm going to look for successful logins, event ID 4624, where my account is in one of my anonymous accounts. I'm going to look at the domain accounts, and if the account is in that list of domain accounts, then they're an admin, otherwise they're not. I'm going to summarize my count by the account number and whether they're an admin. I'm joining it to that accounting average list that I created, and then I'm going to project only the columns that I need. In the list below, I can see a list of everybody who has logged in whose activity is outside the normal boundaries. Let me drag this up so we can see a little better. You can see that my anonymous login had 2 logins, but normally only has 0.5. The same for Azure ATP, it normally has 2, but its average is 0.66666, and so forth. So with this list in hand, I can contact these various users or look at these various services, and I can try to determine why are they logging in more than normal during this time period.